Yo, what's going on, you guys? It's your boy Maj, aka the Mappa Justice, bringing my PCL D-League Season 1 Semifinals match against Platinum Howler, coach of the Coquitlam Red Gyarados. If you guys enjoyed this, feel free to drop a like, comment, and subscribe down below. Now, quick breakdown of his team once again, because I know that we only faced him a couple weeks back, but just in case you're a little shady on his team. He has Tapu Koko with Z moves, Drapion, Milotic, Staraptor, Serena, Heatran, Tyrantrum, Excelgor, Hitmonlee, Golurk with Z moves, and Megalodios. Now, just some quick notes I noticed from our previous match that I decided to try to build upon in this week's team. For one, I wasn't expecting him to bring us Choice Scarf Tapu Koko last time, which did put in a fair amount of work against me, which was kind of an issue. So basically, the idea behind this team is that I need to lure that as best as possible. And basically, the idea is I brought Tentacool, anticipating him to want to bring a physical set, which the only move that he can physically, if he breeds the Choice Scarf Tapu Koko again, the only move that he can lock himself into is either Thunderbolt or Wild Charge, which, if I have the Tentacool in, I can predict this, go hard into my Wigglytuff, which will proc the eject button. I frisk him to find out if he's scarfed or not, and then if he locks himself into that, this gives me the perfect momentum to go into my Dugtrio and trap it and just be able to get rid of it immediately. Now, the moveset on Wigglytuff is kind of doesn't really matter quite as much. It was just basically it's basically designed to give my team a little bit of support, being able to knock off potential shed shells or sugar berries or whatever, and then stealth rocks just for damage, whatever. The primary reason why I have this specifically is so that I can keep the eject button as active as possible. That way, if I need to, I can use this in combination with my Choice Scarf Dugtrio to guarantee trap any threat that I don't want to deal with, and just to be able to get it out of there. Speaking of, we did bring an Adamant Scarf Dugtrio again. I really think Adamant is really good damage output against his team, and Earthquake, Night Slash, and Stone Edge is basically all I need to hit his entire team. Milotic might be kind of an issue, but I also have other ways to deal with it. I also have Memento so that I could potentially help one of my later members on the team set up and win. Next up, I have a Life Orb Tentacruel. Basically, I ran Max Speed to Speed Tie with a non-Scarf Staraptor. And then that special attack investment guarantees that I can one-shot the Serena if he decides to try to bring it in, predicting me to go for Toxic Spikes and try to spin them away. Protect is primarily there so that if he does go hard Staraptor, I can scout for what he's locking himself into, or even the Tapu Koko, see what it's locking himself into. And then Scalded Sludge Wave is just really consistent against his entire team. Next up, and my primary win con is a Sub-Sword Stance Salicberry Garchomp. He does not really have any good answers for Dual Stab Garchomp, especially if I can get an SD off and get some chip down on his Milotic. I could potentially just straight up win with this. The Salicberry, basically, if I get below 25% health, I get a +1 speed boost, which means barring random Scarfers or whatever, I will outspeed his entire team. Ideally, I will have a sub up, as well as a Swords Dance up, and I should be able to just plow through his team. I also have a Life Orb Ice Shard Weavile with Swords Dance and Knockoff and Icicle Crash. He doesn't really have any good answers for Dual Stab Weavile, and then Swords Dance is primarily there to help me break through the Milotic. If he's Fizz Def after Rocks, it's a guaranteed OHKO to drop to a +2 Life Orb boosted knockoff unless he's Marble Scaled, like if he's Flame Orb or whatever. Um, but otherwise, it's just really good damage output against him. And then my last model on the team is Megalodios. He doesn't really have too many good answers for Bolt being Megalodios in combination with Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor is primarily there because Megalodios was also a massive problem for me last time around, and if I could potentially win the speed tie, I guaranteed Oko it with Draco Meteor. So if I could get rid of that, it definitely makes Dugtrio's job, Dougie and Garchomp's job a lot easier, being able to spam Earthquake against his team, because he doesn't really have any other good ground resist outside of, like, Staraptor. But in any case, that's it for the team builder, and I will see you guys in a second with the battle. And we are back. Now, as you guys can see, he wound up bringing the Tapu Koko, Heatran, Golurk, Megalodios, Drapion, and Milotic. On that note, basically my best possible lead, in my opinion, is going to be my Megalodios. Depending on what he leads off with, there's not much that he can threaten it with, and if I can potentially win a speed tie against Megalodios, which I will 100% be going for, it's going to be tremendous first thing in the beginning. Alright, that's a little... let me lower that just a little bit. There we go. There we go, much better. Okay, so he leads off with the Tapu Koko. I actually decided to switch out, go hard into my Megalodios, anticipating him to want to try to go for a U-turn or a Dazzling Gleam. Once again, after calc of the damage, I noticed that he's max attack, so he's likely the same set as he was last time, which is perfect. He's going to U-turn out into his Golurk, and at this point, I didn't really prep for this too well, so I just decided to fire off a Skull, try to get off as much damage as possible. Judging by that damage output, that tells me that this is actually an Assault Vest Golurk, which is kind of problematic because he's definitely going to be able to knock me out. Now, at this point, I just decided I'm going to go on to my Latios and get my Mega Evolution off, and I should be able to kill this thing with a potential Ice Beam. He reads this and goes hard out into his Heatran. I can't remember if I Ice Beamed or if I decided to hard drop a Draco on him. I think I just dropped a Draco. Yeah, I just decided to drop a Draco Meteor on this man. Luckily, I am going to connect and be able to break this thing's air balloon. As you guys are going to see, that did a solid chunk. Going to be able to pop his air balloon, and at this point, once again, I'm kind of on the back pedal since Tentacle died so early, so I didn't really have a switch in at this point, so I just decided I'm just going to keep spamming Thunderbolt, try to weaken this thing. I know it's not electric terrain boosted, and I am at -2, but, you know, it's still going to be doing more damage than -2 Draco or Ice Beam. So, I'm just going to keep firing off Thunderbolt. He fires off a couple Toxics, misses the first one, connects the second. He's going to be able to put me on the timer, and at this point, I've decided that my best possible win con is going to be the Garchomp. That being said, it's going to be a little tricky. I basically had to predict or go hard into Garchomp on a turn. I predicted him to not reveal Lava Plume potentially. So, I go out into my Garchomp as he goes out into his Milotic. I didn't want to let this thing get too weakened because I wanted to scout Milotic's moveset, see if it had potential Ice Beam or whatever. He fires off a Scald as I go onto my Megalodios. Toxic is going to rack up just a little bit more. At this point, I just fire off a Thunderbolt, which he pops the Wakan Berry, so he's going to be able to eat that hit pretty respectively and fire off a Mirror Coat, which that in combination with Toxic will take out my Latios. Now, at this point, that's I'm still really in the back, and I gotta be really careful with how I play out my endgame. So at this point, I just decide I'm gonna go out into my guard chop and fire off a Swords Dance. I need to, and hope and pray that I will get Skull Burn, or that he doesn't have Haze, Dragon Tail, or Ice Beam. He fires off a Skull that doesn't do too much. I don't get burned, luckily, as he's going to go hard out into his Tapu Koko as I get up a sub 2, I believe. Yeah, I go for the substitute. Now, this next turn, you could say is a little bit of a, or is not quite a pro gamer move. I kind of had a feeling that he was going to be choice locked, right? Which, depending on what he locked himself into, if he broke the sub, I would have been able to click sub again to put myself at Salic range, which puts me behind a substitute again, meaning that Tapu Koko still cannot take me out. I kill this thing, and I'm able to just sweep his entire team, provided I get the roll on his Milotic. But he's going to fire off a Brave Bird, which is definitely going to break my sub. I kind of foolishly decided to just click Earthquake and get rid of this thing, even though this was definitely the best setup fodder for my Subsalic Garchomp. So I'm going to be able to get rid of that. He breaks the substitute, which is problematic because there's not really any opportunity that I'm going to be able to get to set this thing back up. He's going to go out into his Latios, which, because I didn't get the Salic boost, is going to be able to outspeed me. So at this point, I decide I need to go hard into Wigglytuff and try to shut this thing down if possible. He's going to make me evolve, and I believe he fires off a Psyshock? Yeah, that or a Dracometeor. Yeah, he fires off a Psyshock, which at Garchomp's range would have knocked me out. He's going to proc my eject button, and I'm going to go hard onto my Weavile. This was kind of also another misplay. So, I kind of had a hunch he wasn't going to stay in, but at the same time, I could not risk letting this thing set up in my face. So, I wanted to click Swords Dance, but unfortunately, I kind of was forced to go for the Icicle Crash, I think, just to guarantee knock it out. He goes hard into his Heatran, which is going to 4 times resist to be able to eat it. But the next turn, yeah, not very effective. I get some Life Orb chip, whatever. Next turn, he's going to sack it to my knockoff, and at this point, he goes out into, so I get a little more Life Orb recoil, electric terrain, and he goes out into his Milotic, and at this point, I kind of had to switch out, or I swapped out into my Wigglytuff. I need to try to get this thing on the timer, try to get it weakened down. If I can potentially stall out a couple turns, or I don't know what I'm saying, but basically he goes for the Scald. Scald is definitely going to 2KO me, and Wigglytuff goes down. At this point, basically I have to try to go for game. So I go on to my Dugtrio, and I need to go for Memento so that this thing guarantee cannot kill my Garchomp. So I'm gonna die, which is no biggie. He goes for the Skull. I'm dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. At this point, I need to go for game with Garchomp. If I get off a Swords Dance, his Skull or Rocks put me in range of the Salic Berry. Assuming he does not burn me with Skull and I get the Swords Dance off, I might still be able to win. But unfortunately, he finally reveals the Dragon Tail, and that's definitely going to be a detriment because that's going to force me out. It's going to make me lose my Salic Berry boost. And that basically sealed my fate at this point, between the fact that rocks are up, I can't use Garchomp, I need Weavile to be able to break through Latios, which he definitely has enough sacks where he can very easily chip me down with my own Life Orb recoil. So I go for the Icicle Crash because I basically need to try to go for flinches on the Milotic because Skull would definitely kill from this range. He sacks the Golurk, goes back out into Milotic. Once again, I need to go for Icicle Crash flinches, try to flinch this thing down. If I want to have any shot at winning, perchance, which at this point I don't think I can, unless I could get a crit knockoff this turn, but he reads this and decides to sack his Drapion, which knockoff into Icicle Crash is going to be able to kill this thing, but at this point I can't switch out. I die to rocks. I have to Icicle Crash, so either way, Weavile dies this turn, and regardless of whether I connect or not, Weavile dies this turn. He has the Latios in the back that outspeeds me, and he's very safely going to be able to just go out into that and prevent my Garchomp on the last turn. So, yeah, he just goes out into Latios. He's going to be able to click Psyshock, which will most definitely kill me at this point. But, in any case, GG to Platinum Howler, coach of the Coquitlam Red Gyarados. I was kind of ashamed that I didn't. I could have won if I didn't choke and if I went for the sub the second time. We talked after the match and he said that he was a Fizz Def Milotic, which at +2 Earthquake to 71% min, which judging by the Thunderbolt damage from Latios, I think he was at about like 73% or whatever. Either way, he said he was at about 153 HP. He couldn't remember off the top of his head, but basically it was definitely a roll for Earthquake to kill at that point, but the roll was in my favor. So had I gotten that roll, I would have been able to cleat sweep at that point. Because I could have easily clicked Dragon Claw against the Latios, and I would have been perfectly fine. Coco was gone, and that was his primary means of speed control. But in any case, unfortunately, that means we lose in semifinals. So Platinum Howler makes it into finals against, I believe he's taking on Blazing Squid, coach of the Toronto Totodiles. We also lost to them in the main season, but I wish them all the best of luck. I just wish that I could have finished the season out, or finished out the season a little bit stronger, but it's whatever, you know, water under the bridge. Best of luck to you guys, and on that note, I'm going to get out of here, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.